Okay, so this is for the Berlioz after rehearsal 1, where it goes back to arco on the at the end of the line there on the F. So again, the fingering that I gave you there is certainly doable, but it occurs to me that it wouldn't necessarily be unacceptable to play instead on the quarter notes C with 1 and then open A. But I was trying to avoid open A, and I was also, by going to 4th position there, giving your bow a little bit of a break as well, so that you don't have to jump all the way from the A string to the C string. Sextuplets that you have coming up right after the double bar on the... I also have an alternate fingering written down below on... which obviously involves shifting versus... It's a little bit more friendly to the bow also if you do this version with the shift, because now you're only playing on the C string for 1 note and then you're on the G string for the rest of it. Whereas here, you're on the G string, on the D string, back to the G string. But that's, again, not to say that it's bad. The other advantage to playing this version is actually an issue that comes up soon in another passage, and that is to play that major third from 4 to 1. That's a closed position for the left hand versus having to extend here. So I know some people tend to maybe struggle with extensions, especially whenever they happen very quickly like that. After the second ending on... So there, again, is why I suggest that fingering as opposed to just going up the D string. Because again, for the same reason I was just saying about the having to deal with the extension there as opposed to... For those 8th notes that just came up, we have... Whereas if you're in 1st position, then you have that open A that kind of sticks out, which, yeah, we want to try to avoid those kinds of sounds, especially in a section. All right, so this is a much warmer note that's not going to be inclined to stick out the way that an open A string would, especially if it's an open string played by an entire section. So the bar before 2, I think I was being clever, or at least I thought I was being clever, and yeah, that extension on the 2 was designed to kind of get you back to 1st position, since you're in half position for this. You can do that, and it certainly works, but you could just as well play 3 and then just simply shift whenever you go to the G string. Try not to get stuck at the frog there. All right, so you're playing... As you get softer especially, maybe try to work your way out towards the middle. That's going to be a lot easier in the middle on the... If you're at the frog to begin with, and now you're stuck and you run out of bow and there's nothing you can do. So if you're here instead, then it's much easier that way. And then... that's a tricky one. It's this part that's going to make you feel uncomfortable. But I would say use the A harmonic, and then also make sure when you play that 1st finger, kind of hook your 1st finger on there, so that whenever your 2nd finger is also more vertical as the consequence, then that doesn't seem like such an impossible stretch. If your fingers are flat like this, then going from 2 to A there, it's going to feel like a huge stretch. Okay, so, but using harmonic one way or the other is going to make all of that feel a lot more comfortable and a lot more natural to the hand. Because otherwise the alternative is, and then you're all over the place on the, going, there's just too many shifts in succession. So we have to do that all in position, I think. I just thought of a new fingering on the spot, and that would be, if you go to 1 on the G, now you come back to thumb on the F, and you can play the C with 1. So some of you might find that actually more comfortable. Some of you might find it less comfortable if you're not comfortable using your thumb as a playing finger. But if I were to play this, that's what I would do. I would play, and then use the harmonic on the last one to get out of position. And then this is a finger replacement. So first finger on E, now fourth finger, E. Yeah, but I think that fingering though on the that's a good one. I'm gonna mark that. 4 bars before rehearsal 5, and this is just an intonation spot. Make sure that you truly shift a half step up now to 2, so that, and all of these half steps again between 2 back to 1, and then 3 to 2, should really be nice and tight half steps, right? So just notice that you go from an F natural to an E sharp there, so there's really no change. So when you get to this place with the F sharp to the F double sharp, then G sharp, I would just be careful to try to feel every single finger individually there. Try not to, and then get all your fingers kind of bunched up. Instead, feel one finger at a time. Okay? So going from the one exception to that rule, I would say, is what I just did, and I might have done it earlier too, and that is to, when you go from 3 to 4, you can keep 3 down. But I would say when you're going from 2 to 3, definitely release 2. So, and then you have that freedom of motion in the left hand, whereas if you keep 2 down and then keep adding, then eventually you get kind of locked, and then that's not very good for your vibrato either. Rehearsal 6, that whole fingering is designed specifically so that you land on E with 2 because of the upcoming arpeggio that you have on I don't know what I was thinking on this fingering that I gave you here with the 4 on the G sharp. You gotta have monster hands to even be able to think about doing that. So let's go with the fingering down below, which is a much better overall fingering. And again, curved second finger, right? More vertical. So that now getting to third finger is much more practical. And I would also suggest that whenever you do that, once you've played G sharp, now let go. So that then when you go to the D, all you're dealing with now is 3 and 1. And you can center your fingers over the string now, whereas if you're playing G sharp and keeping it down, little restricted now in your motion. It's possible to still play all the notes, but I just don't recommend it because it's just constant continuous tension. It's never a good thing. Okay, so the bar before, you can play either 4-1-4 just understanding that the 4 to the G has got to be a big stretch. So some of you might feel comfortable with that, some of you might not, but and there's where when I was suggesting 3, that means you just simply stay stretched. So depending on the size of your hand, you may or may not feel comfortable with that. In which case, if you aren't, then again, use the fingering down below so that and that gets you to the G sharp, obviously, slightly more comfortably and practically.